Hey everybody, thank you for being here. I'm extremely happy to be here and see you all in person. It's been, it's more than 2 years for me. So thank you and welcome. This is our session about empowering women to take charge of their career in security. And today, what you're going to get out of here is, first, you're going to learn about programs that Slalom and AWS have to jumpstart careers. And not exclusively for women, I see some allies here. You can also use these programs, your family can. You also will learn about strategies to overcome obstacles and have a successful career in security. And once you do have a successful career, how do you really work with that work-life harmony? How do we work with that, right? We are very lucky to have a very successful panel of women today. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Laura Rice. I am a solutions architect in the Identity Solutions team. And I'm also actually a co-founder of Women at Solutions Architecture, which is an AWS internal group that aims to support women, non-binary people, and allies like yourself throughout their career life cycle in AWS. Now, today, I am happy to be here. I have Caitlin, who is the general manager for organizations and account in AWS. Interesting thing that she was telling me, she's been here for 16 years. And 16 years is a long time, so congratulations. Yes. We also have Nikki, and Nikki is a principal at Slalom. She actually has been a champion for women her whole career, so much so that her initiatives landed her company as one of the top companies to work for women in the country, so that is great. We also have Svetlana, and she is the head of identity for go-to-market team at AWS. And she was telling me that previously she helped a startup from beginning to end through
the successful acquisition.
Exactly, through acquisition. Thank you. And we actually also have Merit, but there has been a small misunderstanding where they changed our room. So she is actually in the other side of and she will make her way here in a few minutes. But Merit was actually telling me a very interesting story that she started in security working in child pornography law. And she actually wrote and thought about the subject before joining AWS. She also worked in all 3 branches of the US government. So I thought that was pretty impressive. And to get started, actually the first thing that I wanna talk about today are some of the programs that we are here using and the way that we are making women and, let's say, underrepresented people come into this industry. Most of the time, these programs are not very well known, even inside our own company. So let's talk a little bit about that. Nikki, you were telling me that there were some programs that you were working on recently, right? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure, absolutely. So just taking a step back, for those of you who aren't familiar with Slalom, Slalom Consulting, it's a global consulting firm focused on business and technology transformation. And I am an AWS architect, a principal consultant, as well as a leader and mentor in our cloud residency program. And I'll speak to you a little bit more about that in a moment. So just to highlight a couple of the major initiatives that I personally have been involved in. The first one is called Project Ada. In 2018, we noticed that only 6% of our AWS certifications in Slalom were held by women. And our CEO, Brad Jackson, that year at reInvent on stage, called us out and said, hey, let's improve that number. That's 6% isn't cutting it. So right there on stage, committed to establishing a program in partnership with AWS to achieve gender parity in certifications within Slalom. So this kicked off in 2020, which made it pretty interesting. So I recall being in Minneapolis in person with my fellow Project Ada counterparts before having to abruptly shift to remote work. So the program definitely shifted course due to the pandemic, but we adjusted things and supported each other through it all. What Project Ada provided was a very robust training plan with AWS's amazing support. It provided instructor office hours as well as a lot of peer support. And for me personally, at the time, I had a lot of demanding client projects. I had a small child at home during a pandemic. I had a team to manage. So Project Ada was really key for me to achieve my certification goals. So again, our goals kind of took a hit because of the pandemic, but at the same time, halfway through 2020, we achieved 50% of our AWS certifications were being held by women. And that was 400 new certifications through Project Ada at Slalom. Another initiative, aside from supporting our existing women at Slalom, as I mentioned, I'm a leader in our cloud residency program. We've seen a huge demand. I'm sure it's a common demand that many of you have probably seen, a huge demand for cloud talent. And our leadership called out that, hey, we really have a responsibility to our customers to build and help establish that foundational talent ecosystem for cloud talent. So we created the cloud residency program last summer, and this program really is for early career or career changers to give them that support to launch their cloud careers. And it's a 13-week initial learning period followed by real client projects. So we provide them solid mentoring and support through their client engagements, as well as certification support along the way. And what we have found is we've received phenomenal feedback from our customers, as well as our project teams. And it's really opened us up to different ways to think about how we're staffing our client projects so that we're really looking at optimal results for the customer. So that's a highlight of some of Slalom's programs. I can turn it back over to Laura.
I mean, I'm super excited about those programs, especially, well, first of all, before we continue, super happy that you made it. Thank you. I know.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Here.
They changed the room, I know.
They changed the room. And I am running back and forth. I apologize for being late, but also promise to be entertaining. So.
Well, anyway, thank you. And going back to the programs, yeah, I'm excited about that because actually I came into AWS through a similar path. AWS offers a program called Military Apprenticeship, which is offered for military veterans and spouses. I don't know if many of you know, spouses, we move a lot. Every 2 years, we're somewhere else. It's really hard to keep your career.
Do we have military folks in the audience or spouses?
Do we have anybody? Oh, yay!
Yeah. Matt, raise your hand.
Well, now you know. And what they do is they train you. And you can become an SDE, you can become a UX designer, and solutions architect like myself. So I'm really passionate about this topic. And before we actually move forward, why don't, now that we're all together here, what about you tell me about yourself? You know, what you do right now, how you got there, and how did you actually went into security? Like, you want to start, Mary?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, thanks for the invitation to be here. First of all, like, thanks everyone for being here. I mean, you could be with your families, you could be, you know, taking care of other stuff that you have to do. And I just recognize that, like, time is time, and we all don't have enough of it. And that's the resource that we're all looking for in some sense. And one reason that we care so much about the ways that we construct careers and the ways that we see cloud as an enabler and the abstractions that we are building on top of the stack is that we are allowing people to be more creative, which is why it matters so much that we have more voices in the room that are more of the stuff that life is made of. which is how I think of diversity. Like, we've all seen problem solving that is folks sort of talking to themselves, and it doesn't build great technologies. And ultimately, tech is human made. And so, like, this is a call to action, right? Like, we are here to exhibit the stuff we want to see, and it's here to serve us. With that said, I work in, my name is Mary Bear. You can find me on the internet, or I'm happy to give you a card. I work in the office of the CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, here at AWS. So I sit in AWS security. I work on how we secure ourselves. Everything from threat intel to guardrailing employees. You know, I can empathize with folks who are running security shops that run on AWS. Maybe some of you know of these. And then I work in conjunction with customers. So when a customer says, my CISO wants to talk to your CISO, they often get me, and translating that empathy over about what we have learned, but also what I see across customers. And the third bucket is sort of the product side. So maybe you know that we are a tech company and we sell tech products. And this isn't just security services, right? These are the ways that we deliver everything. But this goes through a security review. I help to ensure that we are delivering services that conform to best practices and expectations from customers. And that we build it with like an ear listening to you all the time. So that's my role. And I came from US government. I've done security on behalf of the American people, working in all three branches. I've run my own shop for a while. I went to school here. I was at Harvard for undergrad and law school. And I got into the security field because Mark Zuckerberg was my year in undergrad. And I was put on his website, hot or not. Wow. Without ever having consented to any of it. And I knew that they were like, these issues were just coming for us, right? And some of it was going to be counterterrorism because it was post 9/11. And some of it was going to be the excuses that we use for security to do stuff that may impact vulnerable communities. And I felt like, you know, the water is warm and I should get in. So then I went to law school. And also they let me in.
Yeah.
And also, sorry, I should have done a land acknowledgement. We are on Mashpee, Wampanoag, Nipmuc, and Massachusetts land, among others. And I always try to acknowledge that we are on native land.
Yeah,
thanks.
I love that. I think one of the things that many women here had in common is that they either heard, no, you can't do this, and they say, why not? I will do it anyway. Or they went through this kind of situation, right? And they said, I will make the change. I will be the change. That's awesome.
Well, I think it's interesting because a lot of men are like, I never thought about that. I'm like, what a luxury for you. That security isn't so intimate to you. You know, like for me, it's everywhere. And I love it and I notice it and I embrace that and I think I can help change the world. But like, it's a pervasive belief that like, this is what I might be able to make a little bit of difference on, and that's why I work here.
I love that. Thank you. Svetlana, do you want to?
Sure. Thank you, Laura. And thank you for coming. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Svetlana Kolomeyskaya. I lead the go-to-market team worldwide for identity at AWS. My team works very closely with customers on use cases, best practices, and adapting AWS identity services. I've been at AWS for about 4 years now and about 20 years of identity experience in the space. I got to identity and security really out of college. I started as a developer, definitely a different path from you, Merit, but I started as a developer at a startup company called Tor Technologies, and then I became a development manager there. I led R&D organization, and then the company was acquired by Oracle and became an enterprise-grade identity governance solution. And then since then, I held different roles in professional services, led different teams, and also led a product management team for identity services, identity solutions for identity governance, access management, and directory services at Oracle. And then I'm here now and really excited, and that's the best job I've ever had.
I'm glad. I'm actually excited to meet you all too. I was on awe because I just really just sent them a message and they all said yes at the same time. And I was like, yes, this is why I work here. Well, do you want to go say something about you interesting, Nikki? Or?
Sure. So I already talked a little bit about what I'm doing at Slalom, but just to take a step back about how I got into tech and security. So I started my career in the financial services industry in application development and tried a whole bunch of different things at that financial services company. So I had some DevOps focus, Java development, but then I joined a team that was focused on providing development tools and frameworks for teams, and security was really a big part of this. The application security team lead left the company, and I was like, what are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do without him? I don't know what we're gonna do. And so I had to step up, and I was super nervous. I didn't know security very well, and all eyes were on me, like, I'm responsible for all this stuff. But I took it on and loved it. From then on, I led our application security initiatives at that financial services company, as well as doing some architectural work around DevOps and implementing security into our SDLC and deployment pipelines. So then again, now at Slalom, I really shifted focus to AWS, just across the spectrum of AWS services, but I'm hoping to take what I've learned here and all of these amazing connections and bring and really strengthen what we're doing with security in our cloud residency program.
Awesome. I mean, that's great because I think they said that 50% of women never dare to apply when they are not fully qualified. So the fact that you actually took on, even though you felt like you didn't have the qualifications, because I bet you did have them.
Yeah, please have the confidence of a mediocre white man. It will work out just fine. They will either, like, if you aren't getting a no, then you aren't trying hard enough.
That's true. Caitlin.
Yeah, I started as a SDE1 at Amazon, and I was not in the security space. I was in monitoring software back in the day when I started, and I transitioned into security, honestly, as we needed it as a company. Back then, I was on the Amazon.com side of the house, and security is how we preserve customer trust, and that's really what is key to Amazon continuing to grow. It's why customers shop on Amazon, and it's why customers use AWS as well. And that's become more and more important over the course of my career, and I realized you can't really create software without it being secure, and that's really pushed me into the security side of the world. And then now it's about making it easy too, which is a whole different ballpark.
Well, I think we're all working with that every day. How do we make this easier?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, because if it's hard, it's not secure.
Yeah, and if it's hard, yeah, that's right. I think somebody told me, I met with somebody here in the hallways actually, and they were telling me a story about passwords, how over time we have all these restrictions on passwords, and then what people ended up doing in companies is writing them in a little note and putting them under the keyboard, and I was like, well, that defies the whole purpose of everything that they are doing. It's like, okay, well, I guess.
I think I still have an old keyboard with a password taped to the back.
I'm actually fine if you put it under your keyboard. Like, just don't save it in a text file that someone can get into your, like, write it on your notebook. It's fine. As far as I'm concerned, like, that's 2FA.
Fair enough.
I mean, it isn't 2FA. You could be better, sure, but you could be worse too.
So, speaking of this, Merit, I'm a little actually interested, and I think most people here are. You mentioned that you had some obstacles that you overcame, right? Some personal, and I'm guessing some professional to get where you are right now. Can you maybe tell our audience a little bit about what obstacles you had to overcome, how you did that? Maybe we can learn from it.
I mean, honestly, so I see an interesting mix in the room and a lot of guys, which is awesome, because I think part of what we need to be talking about, like, I take issue a little bit with the title here because I don't think it's always on women to take charge of their careers. Like, we should be doing this because it's the right thing for the technology we build and the world we want to live in. And certainly I want my friends to get promoted and I want us to hire more women and I want us to hire more folks who are underrepresented in any form, because I think we build better technologies. And I also think that we grow up ourselves when we are around folks who think differently and solve problems differently. So I think, when I think about some of the formative things that have helped me think differently and describe that to other folks. My family was a foster family growing up. So my little brother's a Lakota. And we don't think, like, the linear reasoning that colonialism put on time is something that is not necessarily an expectation. And in fact, like, quantum theorists are now saying, like, everything is circular and, like, welcome, There's a lot of ways that I think this translates to technologies, both in the sense of the things we already know. So like the ways that we can relate to data that NASA, can discover about universes out there, and like the way that, whatever Euclidean mathematics works and how we can do provable mathematics and how we reason about what we know. And then conversely, what we have created and what the sharp edges are and how people interact with that. And I think if you walk through the world thinking about it from a security-minded perspective, thinking about it from a differently abled perspective, you will interact with the technology differently and you will have built it differently. And that's important. And I think it doesn't take that much imagination. Like, we can do it, but it sometimes requires us to interact with folks who like give us that imagination space. And I think about a lot of things through spaces. Like, picture where you grew up in and how you can walk in that front door and how you can look at that, cupboard, or like, I think about things in terms of space. And I think that makes it memorable, but it also makes it personal. And when we think about mathematical problems, like at some point, it always comes back to letters, right? It's not numbers. You get more notional, and that's the beauty of cloud, is that you're abstracting above, because we're doing the heavy labor underneath, like the manual racks and stacks, and that's one of the inheritances that I think I see here that I hope is a call to get in the water, because we've all been through stuff that's like some creep who said what, but like, if you have your eye on this version of reality that you believe in, you will chase it.
But just what I really want to know is, what are the strategies that they can take away from here? So if I am starting in my career right now, and I bet a lot of women here are too, and we look up to all of you. What do you all think that we can do to assure that we are successful? Should we find mentors? Should we network?
Yeah, two things I would say. Have your elevator pitch. Like, be ready to tell people who you are and why they should care about you and what you need. If you need a job, tell people. Don't be ashamed, and don't be ashamed to ask for, introductions to folks who are a secondary connection on LinkedIn or whatever. Like, this is the good old boys network that everyone else is using. You use it too. And the second is to deliberately keep folks in your circle. Like, I don't like the word mentor just because it feels artificial. Like, will you be my mentor? I don't know. Let's find out. Like, let's talk to each other and see if we want to talk again. But like, I also expect that those relationships will teach me something, that these are ongoing back and forths, and that if we click, we will want to talk again. And we do have to be intentional. I schedule like an hour a week to do these follow-ups. So sometimes it's like reaching out to someone who wrote a cool article that I read, and I'm just like, you should be my friend. And other times, it is something like re-enriching a friendship that I admired, 5 years ago, or a professor, or, like my high school English teacher who really taught me. And those, I think, are deliberate, but they're also natural in a sense and organic, and let those grow.
So basically, we can talk, network through all of this type of conferences, or even through LinkedIn. We can
feel free to do it with me. I do a lot of interactions on Twitter. I don't usually take LinkedIn requests unless I know you, which is just like a security person thing.
So you can take this opportunity, get to know her, so you can add
Feel
her on
free.
LinkedIn.
This is an offer.
What about you, ladies? What do you think? Are there any obstacles that were specifically difficult for you?
Sure, I can speak to this one. 20 years in technology. I've run into situations that are downright toxic, even situations where I've feared for my physical safety. But really, I think the times that have made me have been the hardest for me is when it's kind of those day-to-day interactions where I start questioning whether I belong. And so being the only woman in the room, you feel pretty exposed, pretty vulnerable. Like people are like, what are you doing here? And one of the hardest things is when I get labeled like not technical. So I'm very much a technical person. I love being hands on keyboard. I love digging in way down and way down the stack. And so there's times where I've been subject matter expert or I've built something, and yet folks will address my male coworkers to ask them questions or ask for help with that thing that I built or that I was the expert on. And it really has made me question myself and whether I belong. And I think that's been the biggest challenge for me overall, just if I could summarize the last 20 years.
I like that. Let me look around the room. For you, have you ever felt, okay, raise your hand if you ever felt like you weren't technical enough, or maybe you were. Yeah, see?
Raise your hand.
Everybody, yeah, I feel like that every day. And I think it's just something we have to work through, right? Yeah. So there are a few obstacles that I think are common between us, and we can work together and we can recognize that everybody goes through it. There are other obstacles that, well, in the past 2 years, we had this big gap that we haven't seen each other, right? And employees they emphasize work-and-life harmony. And it's so hard when you don't see anybody. You're trying to ping them on Slack or on Chime, trying to, hey, hello, I'm here, right? But how do you manage to have a successful career while still managing your life? Svetlana, you have any ideas of how to do this?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, balancing that is definitely very challenging, I think, for everybody. For me, when I led the product management team and professional services team, I used to work quite a bit with West Coast companies. So for me, taking a call at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or 7 o'clock, my time was fine at the time. Then I got pregnant, I got kids. I have 2 beautiful children. They're 9 years old, they're twins right now. But when I came back to work, there was an expectation for me to continue taking those calls at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening, and that was the prime time to have dinner. That was the prime time to spend quality time with my family. So I've taken through my network, so networking is super important. Through my network, I got a tip from one of the female leaders. She started blocking her time essentially from 5:30 to 8:30 in the evening, saying this is my family time, so I'm not gonna take calls during that time. So I followed her lead and I started doing the same. It was very challenging at first because there was that expectation that I would take those calls, and I wanted to be part of those calls as well. But I think that over time it really worked. Either those calls would be scheduled at a different time, or I would get a summary of those conversations afterwards. And that made me feel good about being present with my family at home and spending time with my family, and also being present at work and pursue my career inspirations.
I mean, I like that, but sometimes I really do try to schedule my time, and that's the first thing they tell you when you come into the company. Your calendar is yours, schedule it, block it. But then I block it and I have this horrible feeling that I'm missing something. I might be missing important information. How do you deal with this?
It is incredibly difficult, particularly when you want to be in those meetings and you have to set up that boundary and either say this has to be rescheduled or not. And I think also one of the other things we can do as leaders is when you're setting up a time or setting up a meeting, note who's attending and what time zones they're in. Yeah. And make sure that it's noted like who is mandatory and who's not. and so that you can work around those time zones. I've been very guilty. Part of my team's on the East Coast, part of them's on the West Coast. I'm very guilty of setting up a 4 p.m. meeting when East Coast people are needed if I'm not explicit about that. But it's really important to do that, particularly as more people are distributing across the country and the world.
Yeah, it is difficult. I have actually talked to a lot of people in the hallways in preparation for today. And some of my colleagues are telling me, some of you actually here, I cannot see you right now because of the lights, but I know you're there. They told me that most of the time they think, oh, maybe, I have kids now, I will take a break. But then at the same time, they are afraid that taking a break will take a toll on their career. How do they stay competitive, right? Is there
First of all, having kids is not a break.
I mean, not for you, but for your career, so that you don't break by doing both at the same time.
I just don't think there's any such thing as like work-life harmony. I think like that's a lie that we tell ourselves and tell each other. I think that, there's only so much stuff of the life that we have, like, and you just spend it. And sometimes you think, I should have spent that day differently. And so you revise and you get better at drawing boundaries or whatever. But like, there's no like recipe for this. There was like the Anne-Marie Slaughter piece back in 2011 or something that was like the art of having it all. It was like, no one has it all. Like, forget all. We're not going to hike the Appalachian Trail probably. I know I am not going to run a marathon. I've had 5 knee surgeries. Like there are certain things I just simply will not do in this world. Maybe the next one, and I think reconciling with that, but also like embracing that, because that means that the art of being here now is knowing that we won't do it all. And so, yeah, I sometimes catch myself being like, Merritt, you can take this call later, or you can take it like on the, phone while you walk your dog, but mostly it's around my baby, like just carve out those times. Like it has to be intentional, but like it will always feel a little bit like you're not enough. And that's probably true. None of us are, like that's the being aliveness of us. And this is nothing unique to women. I think men feel exactly the same way because they cannot possibly do it all either. Like this is just being human. We no one has it all.
But that's a good thing, because when you recognize that, you're like, okay, I need to take a break. And because all of us are here, we recognize that there are things that we need to do to stay competitive, right? And one of the other programs that we are offering right now, and I think many companies are doing, is returnship. So we allow parents to stay relevant, and when they want to come back, they can actually sign for these programs, get assignments for 16 weeks, and get a taste of the culture of the company. And if you want to come back to work at Amazon, well, this one is for Amazon. I'm sure you have a different one, but if you want to come back to work for Amazon, you're actually extended, depending on performance, obviously, you're extended an invitation to come. I mean
okay. Like as Coco Chanel said, to be irreplaceable, you must be different, right? Like I recommend that folks specialize. Be good at one thing that folks really want to bring you back for, because it's not that the shop needs you. Like the whole point of being a security person is that you should get hit by a bus tomorrow and no one should notice. I mean, like the mechanisms should exist to preserve the integrity of the security of the shop. But if you're good at something, they will want you back, and like you shouldn't worry about that. Like this is part of the integrity that you tell yourself when you're having those low moments that you're like, no, I'm pretty rad. Like tell yourself that it would be pretty hard to replace you. And I believe that.
Yeah, but I do feel that this kind of programs do incentivize that we are free to make that choice. We are free to say, I cannot do both of these things right now, but I will be able to stay relevant and I will be able to come back. What do you think? Caitlin? Sorry, I should have said your name.
I found that, well, for transparency, I do not have kids. So one luxury that I have, but it's one program that we do have that I found really successful is that We support boot camp for women who come back, who want to change careers and come back change careers and come to Amazon as a tech. And they come in with less than your typical 4-year degree of tech experience, but you do some of your training in-house. And I found that the people who do that are incredibly valuable. They have a lot of maturity because they know what it's like to be in the business. They're not like your typical college hire. And they are incredibly motivated, and they know how to teach themselves. Yeah. And so I think, people who are willing to take those kind of transitions in life are usually very valuable for the workplace. That's not to be overlooked.
Is this an internal to AWS, or is it open to everybody?
It's not to be confused with your ADA program. It's an ADA program in Seattle, which is a tech boot camp, and okay. We'll take part of the internships, but they go throughout the Seattle area.
Yeah, and is this something that you do internally throughout your organization to ensure that there is diversity in your teams?
Yeah, one thing that I found the most helpful is to really make sure that you are taking time to recognize how every person can add value differently. Not everyone looks the same. I think when people think of, your standard like tech engineer, you're thinking of someone who's really they're either hiding in a corner and producing a lot of code, or they're talking really loudly in meetings. And not everyone looks like that. And Amazon, we really buys off the leadership principles, but you can express them in many different ways. And the biggest lever I have is to, when we're in our annual review process, make sure that we're not falling into old tropes. And there's some things I don't allow. Like, I do not allow someone to say that a junior engineer needs to be less quiet. It's just not valuable feedback. It's okay to be quiet. Introverts are very valuable. I can be very introverted myself, but if what I would rather focus the conversation on is if this person we think they can contribute more, how? Give an example, and let's think about different ways they could. Or maybe they already are and we're not looking closely enough. So for example, if you have an engineer and they're an expert in, this threading algorithm, and the team had this big, long design discussion and you knew they could contribute, but they didn't, that specific feedback you can bring them. You can say, we knew you had something to add here and you didn't. You didn't have to add it in the team meeting. You can add it afterwards. You can add an email. You can add in mentoring. But make sure that their contribution, they know how to add contributions, and in the same way that we're going after and we're looking for their contributions, because not everyone is going to be incredibly visible and speaking very loudly. They may be doing all the code reviews on the team. They may be producing all your wiki docs. They may be doing a lot of mentoring, and we have to find that because that's leadership too.
Yeah, but so I do have a question. Sorry, I'm curious because this is once they're in, but I think one of the biggest issues that we have is actually getting these people inside the company. So do we have any recruitment, I don't know, do we do anything to recruit more diverse people? Has that been changed for you? Is that different? Or?
I mean, to be very honest, the best recruiting tool I have is hiring and promoting a diverse team, and that's a virtuous cycle once you have it. And if you don't, then it's almost like a club that the other people intentionally opt out of. So you have to start and it's hard to get there, but you have to start with diversity, and that will get you more diversity. And I don't have anything more magic than that, but and once you have people in there, you have to retain them, and you have to promote them, and you have to make sure you're leaning in on careers equally across the board and looking for the ways people may contribute differently.
Well, I think that's true. And I remember when I first came, I actually interviewed with a few companies. I'm not gonna say which one across the lake as well, right? And I did get offers, and I had to decide where would I go. But I do have an accent, as you all can hear. And when I interviewed at Amazon, each one of my interviewers, they had an accent. So I felt maybe I'm not so different here. Maybe, it will be okay if I'm in the meetings and if people will be able to understand me because other people also have accents. And that was kind of so I see what you're saying.
Oh, it's incredibly important. And to be thoughtful of who's on that interview loop, you don't want to misrepresent your team, but also people make decisions like that every day based on the people that they meet.
Is that something that happens as well with our partners?
Oh yes, absolutely. Definitely. So one thing this makes me think of though is an effort that we piloted. Our Women in Data organization piloted an inclusive job posting effort. So there's a publicly available site that will evaluate your job postings and look for whether it's masculine language or feminine language. And what they found was it didn't matter for men, it didn't really matter whether it was masculine or feminine rated. But for women, I can't remember the exact percentage, I apologize, but women definitely ruled out job postings that had strongly masculine wording. So Slalom piloted an effort, and again, I don't have the stats off the top of my head, but there was a drastic difference when they changed the wording of the job postings based on those results. So I thought that was pretty cool, and something that you all could take back to your organizations. Be very mindful of how you're presenting your jobs.
Yeah, recently I also saw one that had a disclaimer at the bottom saying, if you do not meet all the requirements, it's okay, apply anyway, and there might be another position for you. And I was like, oh, that's awesome, because normally I look at it and it's like, ooh, I cannot do all of this. But if they tell me it's okay, yeah, of course I will apply. I remember there were other things that we were doing with you. Aren't we doing a hackathon or something similar?
Oh, yes. And I actually have some of my fellow Slalom folks here. So
let me see them.
So they are probably very familiar with Hacktober. It's not explicitly an inclusion, diversity, and equity effort. However, one of our phenomenal women in tech leads started this Hacktober program a few years ago. She's now a technical program manager with Inforce, and it grew from just a really small effort to having over 2,000 participants last year. And it's super fun. They get volunteer engineers throughout the organization to build out an events platform. It's a month-long gamified celebration of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So really driving cybersecurity awareness in fun and engaging ways. And the thing that I admire about this is that it's given our women in tech group opportunities not only for leadership, but also to build out the content, build out the platform, and really just increase interest in security. So not only for women, but it opened it up for a larger group of people, and I'm excited. Every year there's just more and more excitement around it.
I might be there. But okay, so this might be some sort of a controversial question, and I would like all of your opinion on it. We're talking about diversity, we're talking about programs, we're talking about what to do. How is this important? How has this made any impact? Did it do it? What is your opinion on it? I know Meredith will have an opinion on it.
I mean, I think we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
It still looks pretty uniform out there when you get in a tech room, and that's why you were talking about being under the microscope when you are the person in the room who's correcting pronouns or just existing. I think we know why it matters, or at least I've hoped to articulate that earlier, and I think we understand it to be important, but I think we have a long way to go in the mechanisms. Amazon is a deep believer in mechanisms. Good intentions are not enough. And I think we are working on putting some of those in place. So for example, we recently updated the policy so that when you're on maternity leave or whatever, parental leave, I mean, let's be honest, parental leave, that your stock doesn't stop vesting, which had been the case until recently. Like, I mean, that's just a tax on mothers. So, you know, like, and all these sorts of things, like, these are, you know, Sheryl Sandberg, who I don't ascribe any huge value to as like a luminary, but who wrote a book that pointed out some of these things, said she didn't even notice until she pulled into the parking lot that there was no, you know, whatever, pregnant woman parking, and she was like wobbling around. And then it turned out that, like, of course cafeteria workers had been dealing with this forever. You know what I mean? Like, it's when it becomes personal to you sometimes. And so I think part of it is representation and getting folks in the room. I think part of it is the fact that companies are getting a little wiser. Like, we need to find ways that we can, you know, implement the change that we want to see in the world.
This is interesting because actually that recently happened to me when I came back from maternity leave, and I was like, oh, I need a mother's room. Where is the mother's room? Is there a mother's room somewhere? Yeah, and I had to actually realize that other co-workers of mine been dealing with this and with a crying child, and I was a lot more understanding of their situation when I had to deal with it myself.
Oh yeah, or people who are like, why aren't you turning your video on? Well, Mark, I am breastfeeding.
Yeah. If you want me to, I can. But
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's just like, it sounds so elemental, and it is, right? But like, and if you are a manager or you are someone who's like, think about these things, right? I think that's the point, is like, we're getting better, but it takes work.
Yeah, I had to go to some meetings, and then I think one of my coworkers actually sent me a message like, hey, Laura, there is some feedback on your microphone. It's like, yeah, I'm in the mother's room. That feedback is my little machine right next to me. I apologize, I'm not gonna be able to talk. But it's something that people don't think about, right? But I also noticed, and you probably did too, that we also seen some very big improvements on products because of diversity. And one of them, I actually personally experienced as Macy. So originally, Amazon Macy had the automatic data identifier. So you had basically a pattern that Macy will find in your documents, and it will automatically tell you, oh, there is a piece of data that shouldn't be here, right? But then that pattern doesn't apply to everybody in the world. It was only like social security number, so it was mostly located to the US, right? And then we had some customers in Latin America. I'm from Latin America. And then remember that we raised this issue. Hey, there are some things like CPF in Brazil that we cannot actually use Macy to find in the documents, and they fixed it. They fix it. Now Macy has a custom data identifiers that we can actually create our regex to fit the
people
partner.
are much happier.
Yes, and people are
Genuinely,
much
like,
happier.
It's a service that does a lot more value.
Did you have any experience like that? I think, Caitlin, you were telling me about experiences like that.
Yeah, well, AWS organizations are all about making multi-account management easier, and the majority of AWS customers use organizations. But that means that startups, public sector, large enterprises, people in the education field, all of those customers are trying to use my product, and diversity is really valuable on my team because of that. If I just have a team of engineers who have worked on Amazon.com and moved to AWS, we just have one perspective of what it means to run a very, very large enterprise. Instead, I have a bunch of team. I love hiring former customers, and I have team members who are from startup background. They're from public sector. That means when we are designing our product in the like working backwards phase, those perspectives are brought in right then and there from day one. It's super valuable. I learn a lot of things about how public sector works with or multi-account management versus startups, when you have one person who's wearing a million different hats versus Amazon.com, where you have it's a very different beast over there, and we get to do a much better product before we bring in customer feedback, as opposed to us creating one thing that fits one persona and then bring it to all those customers and hoping that we can shop it around and get that feedback way after the design. So diversity is super important.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing. I had to say, when I even think I wrote a blog, I probably should update it at some point, but I did write a blog about this. And I was amazed on how taking action at Amazon is easy. Well, not easy. You still have to write a doc and get it approved, and it goes through a few reviews, but you can do it. And even me, I was like, who am I? But hey, I can still do this, right? But I think those are a lot of improvements we have achieved. We have come a long way thanks to you, but we still have a long way to go. And I still find myself being the only one very often. Do you think, Svetlana, how do you think this environment changed?
Change as well, yeah. So there was definitely a lot of focus on diversity, especially in the last 5, 6, 7 years. Yeah, similar to you, similar to Nikki, I think a lot of women in this room. When I started out my career 20 years ago, I was pretty much always the only woman in the room. And that's changed over the course of the last 5 to 7 years. So there's definitely more women in the room in identity and security space. There are also more female leaders. So I work very closely with Caitlin, for example, right? So she manages the organizations and accounts from a PM perspective. My manager is a woman leader, Rory Richardson. Not only she handles identity, but also security and a few other areas as well. There's also a lot of education and focus on diversity and the importance of diversity in the workplace. So I think the combination of more women in the room, more female leaders, but also education, I think makes other women more comfortable and confident to speak up and voice their opinions, voice their ideas, but also apply for some of those leadership roles and getting those leadership roles. So that's very, very exciting. Are we there yet? No, we're definitely not there yet, but we're certainly getting there.
And so we're not there yet. Should that be our responsibility to help the situation get there?
Yeah, I think as the hiring managers, right? So I'm hiring right now. So as I'm getting resumes, I'm definitely looking for diverse candidates. So that's on us as managers.
Mm-hmm. But
and
all
leaders,
managers.
All managers.
Not just the female
right.
ones, right? It's every hiring manager, it's every leader's responsibility. You're gonna have a better product, you're gonna have a better team. If you can make sure it doesn't look like one personality type, one physical type, anything like that.
I mean, we can't.
Yeah, I mean, candidly, I wasn't thrilled to be on this panel. Like, I like to talk about security, not about being a woman, mostly. That's what I do. I'd like to just do that. It turns out, though, that, it's pretty important that we consider what amount of sort of, cycles that we have to reach out and help other folks. And I think, whatever illusion you want to use, like freezing the water you walked over on or whatever, I think if you have it in you that you can do something, do it. If you don't, it's not on you. And if you are someone who's in a position who's not in one of these communities, do it. That's cool. We want you. Be on our team. We're all, we agree that this matters, and also that there will need to be a concerted effort. It's not going to happen by accident. The existing cycles will consistently replicate unless we change them.
So thank you for being here anyway.
First. Not why I was I promise it was just the wrong room.
No. I get it. But the thing is, everybody was really excited about all you being here. So I was happy that you said yes. Do you think there are strategies that we can use to actually help them? So let's say somebody in the back say, yes, I want to do this. How can we help them overcome the fact that at some point they have a sick child and they feel, maybe I should just stop doing this. Or maybe there are too many men in the room and she has to go back home because she has to pump and everybody else is networking and she's missing it. And that is sometimes very disregarding, right? And this is not exclusively for women. I actually have a coworker who went on parental leave as well, a male coworker, and he came back and he called me and he said, Laura, how did you come back? I am so overwhelmed. My wife is not sleeping and I am trying to help, but I also need to come back to work. How do we? So are there any strategies that we that are here inside right now can give them to overcome this?
I mean, my personal view is that like it's gonna be dressed in overalls and look like work. You know, like we're kind of. I think that people will even ask me like, how do you do it? It's like there's no special sauce. I just like work really hard at it. And every time that I give a talk, I spend like 70 hours preparing. And if it feels natural when you hear it, it's because I've rehearsed it. You know, like there is nothing that comes without a lot of work. And I think like that's kind of liberating because you just know that like we all had to teach ourselves. I mean, the whole nature of cloud was like, even if I had gotten a CS degree, which I didn't, by the way, you know what I mean? Like they wouldn't have taught me AWS in 2006. You know what I mean? Like we all had to go out and teach ourselves. And that's sort of like I don't know. I just kind of feel like it's the call to action is like, who but you? Like no one is readier than you are to start somewhere. And if you don't have more than an hour, like, well, also I should give an acknowledgement, and Steve Schmidt did in his talk, like on his t-shirt, if you're neuroatypical, like you are home, we're all weirdos here. You know what I mean? Like we don't know what we're doing. We're just figuring it out. And there's a lot of like room to grow and to develop and to build better stuff. And we like, no one has a playbook for this, which is why it's so important that we get folks in.
But it's important to say that because I do remember when I first started, and this was in different companies, I asked my coworker, oh, how did you do this? And I remember one of them telling me, oh, you know, I just did it. And I just looked at it yesterday and I did it today. And me thinking, oh my God, I will never be able to just look at it and do it. I need to prepare. But then I came and recently I realized people change, and they've been telling me, oh, you know, Laura, I prepared this many hours, or I did this much work before, and that's why. It's like, oh, okay, if I do the work as well, then I can do it as well. So if you tell me, or I don't know, does anybody feel like that? Or is it just me? Is it just me? Like
No. My perpetual pep talk is like, if they had someone better to do it, they'd be here. You're the one. I'm the one that's here. I'm the one who has to do it, and I'm going to do the best job I can. And, you know, that's all you can do. And usually it's better than you think it's going to be. And don't wait. Don't wait because you think that it's not good enough. Just, step up, take ownership, and do it because no one else is going to do it.
Yeah. Learn that the hard way. It's good to know. Well, we're almost at the top of the hour, but I really don't want to end this without hearing if we have somebody here that is just starting their career, or maybe we have an ally here who wants to help people start their career. Is there an advice that you will give them to help somebody get started and be successful in their career in security, or for somebody who is growing in their career right now? Okay, Caitlin.
Sure. So, I mean, I think if you're starting your career, don't hesitate. Just dig in, own things, and do the best you can. And for allies, know that people are watching everything you do, and it's really important how you treat others, that you show how you're balancing things. Just a story when I remember looking around the room as an SDE2, which is like mid-level engineer at Amazon, and looking around and being, oh my gosh, all the leaders have stay-at-home wives. What's that mean for me when I grow up? And I recently was reporting to Jim Sharf, and he showed how he had to go home for childcare. And that was so nice to see. Yeah. It was a much more inclusive environment, and I noticed that other people were much more willing to push back when they saw that from their leader too. So don't hide that stuff. Everyone's doing it. Yeah, acknowledge it.
That is actually true. I do feel better. My manager, Ilya, right now, he does say, oh, I have to finish this meeting because right now I have to pick up my kids. And I'm like, oh, wow, I can do that too. That's awesome.
It gives you permission.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to call out allies because I see there's a ton of allies in the room. And I talked before about how challenging it is to be the only woman in the room. And really what has worked for me is to find those trusted allies And that has been everything for my career. The people that can lift me up, the people that can back me up if I'm in the room, they'll say, oh, Nikki knows that. Go talk to her. I'm not the one that knows that. So allies, thank you. It's really been the biggest thing that's kept me going, is to have that support network. So for people coming into the career, find that network.
Sure. Yeah, so identity security space is very, very exciting space. It's on top of mind for all of our customers. So my advice is just join the community.
I love these like concrete tips. I think amplifying and giving credit are really important. No one has to go down for you to go up. Like bring each other up. And anytime you are building on someone, like give attribution. Like that just helps everyone get pumped up for the work that they've already invested. But I also think that like I said, I mean, pick a thing. And if it were me today, it might be like serverless security, or like pick a thing, or hardware security, which is never going away because underneath everything virtualized is something hardware. Pick a thing and be the queen of it, and then they will always come to you when they know that they need that expertise, because I think doubling down on what you're already strong at will make you less replaceable. Will make you irreplaceable. Let's go with that. Like be the person who folks think of when they want to talk about that thing that you already love and are good at.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, ladies. I am honored that you're here. I am happy that all of you got to meet. Hey, come and say hi to them, because as you know, they only add you on LinkedIn if you already met them. So you have that opportunity right now.
It is a security-driven policy.
But thank you, everybody, for being here. Super happy. I hope to meet every one of you, and I hope you become allies or you become part of the identity and security organization. Thank you.
Thank you.